Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. We fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom.
On this episode of Cigars and Sea Stories, Bennett and Mike are sitting down to talk about artillery. Well, and like calling for fire also, though. You know?
Yeah. Should have Eddie on for this, since he's a artillery expert.
He's like, hey guys, what's up? I'm an artillery expert.
I'm a 13 Fox.
I pull strings and call stuff, and that's how they breathe.
I'm a 13 Bravo.
Yeah, but I mean, artillery, first of all, has 3 MOSs in the Marine Corps. It's got the Forward Observer, the FDC, and then the actual gun line.
Yeah.
And
same with the Army, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and then being an 0341 in the Marine Corps, it's in mortars.
Mini artillery.
Right, so it's mini artillery, but you learn all 3. So you learn call for fire, FDC, which don't ask me to do FDC or anything with a plotting board. I couldn't fucking do that right now if I tried. I'd call for fire.
Yeah, but I couldn't do the other shit anymore either. But
I could totally get a gun up right now. If you put an 81 in front of me, I could totally get up. I would struggle a little bit with a 60 probably, but it's pretty much the same shit. I mean, I'm faster on an 81. Unless I have boot bands.
I could totally still
60.
I'm thinking about it in my head.
Yeah.
I could totally still plot, and I could totally still call for fire.
Yeah.
And I could still do CAS for sure.
Oh, yeah.
CAS still, unless the shit's changed.
It hasn't.
It's very possible, but I doubt it.
You talk like you're on a fucking phone when you're doing close air support.
Right, but I'm just saying between that, but also calling for fire, it can't really change. I mean, it's so simple anyway.
9 lines are well, then it depends also, because the only thing that changed is the abilities of the artillery.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you guys, the Army has, I say you guys from the Army side, but it's like, you fucking guys.
You fucking guys.
Well, they had these artillery pieces on tank tracks. Trey was talking about it.
Yeah, the Paladins.
Right. And we were with 777s, and I've shared this story before where it was like the first or second night that we were in Kajaki, and there were 2 guys that were sleeping in the main room. I remember their names. I'm just not sharing them. And they were on cots. They were up against the wall. Dust started to kind of come off the wall as these 777s were outbound firing. And it was XCAL missions, which if you know anything about artillery, those are red bag missions. Those are, we're going to blow somebody up that's over 30 kilometers south of here. And so they were like, maybe we should move our cots. And so they moved their cots into the middle of the room. And sure as shit, one of those outbound went. And we all woke up the next morning, and that whole wall had fallen right where their cots were, or would have been. And it was just like, oh shit, we got to move out of this stupid structure. And then we wound up moving down the hill. And frankly, that was no better from a sound perspective, but we could get up on, depending on where they were shooting, we could get on the roof with green gear and a 3-foot tape, sometimes a whip. Usually a whip would work. And we could hear the firefight that was going on and the call for fire as it was coming in. So we would just sit up there with 2 or 3 pieces of green gear, monitoring the different net, and then also the black gear, because the gun line was talking to the COC, and the FDC was talking to the COC, and then 81s, like if we were shooting direct fire, that was the other thing. Our artillery unit that we were with, the battery that we were with, was not afraid to shoot direct fire. Which if you've ever seen a howitzer come all the way down to pretty much horizontal,
you might want to shit your pants.
Oh, wow. Okay, some shit's going down. And when that round went out, it would go, we're in we're in Fob Z, which is up on a hillside. So you would be down in the valley and you could see around go pretty much horizontal, low angle fire, which artillery doesn't do a whole lot to Afghan compounds because the walls are so thick. And, but I mean, you can ring some bells. And then so what we would do is we would get 81s that were firing a loom. They would fire point det. They would fire on the deck for marking. They would fire HE. They would fire proximity. Artillery would fire direct. And those rounds whipping over like, going overhead kind of a deal. Oh, man. Powerful. It was one of those things where it was just like, fuck some shit up with this right here. Like, yeah.
God, speaking of like direct fire, could you imagine? So speaking of artillery, but going back to like, earlier battlefields where they actually used cannons and stuff. Could you imagine walking into like canister shot?
Oh God. Oh, you mean like in the Patriot when they're bouncing cannonballs down the field and it?
Yeah, but not that. I'm talking about once somebody decided that they should develop the canister shot, which is the stuff where it's the anti-infantry shit, so it's not cannonballs anymore.
You're saying like the frag?
Yeah, where they basically turn it into a giant claymore.
Fuck that.
God, bro, because that's what when I think of direct fire, that's what I envision. Oh man, bro, could you fucking? I mean, fuck.
Could I imagine stepping into a wall of lead? Like, nah, probably no. I don't know. Maybe in a past life.
Or just horrible.
See, that's yeah. Well, and that's kind of like.
I mean, some of these
proximity around.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's the same thing.
Yeah. Right.
That's when that's kind of like when crunchies kind of stop poking fun.
Yeah, correct.
Hey, 81s open up the sheaf and rain proximity down because we have enemy infantry in the open. They put like a shit ton of Ivan targets out there, and you see just the white, and artillery has proximity also, I believe, but it's, it's steel rain. It's spraying, steel shot down.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh. Well, and the other thing too is like
just explosive shells are just nasty, bro.
Yeah. Well, and they work really well.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing too is that there are a lot of reasons to call for especially artillery, but you need a reason to call for artillery. So some of these outbound missions, as we're listening to them, it would be like a recon unit without giving call signs. You would hear a recon unit that would be in the northern edge of the southern AO. So they would be like the closest unit to us in that area at that moment in time, because we were in a bubble, and now I believe that it's all free and clear through there. But anyway, they would be in contact. Basically, enemy was in between us, like our two units, 30 kilometers apart, but they would be in heavy contact. And so they would be calling for artillery onto other positions or adjacent positions to the firefight, which was cool. So it would be like, okay, so now go from their perspective. They're in the middle of a firefight against a squad size element, and then they call for artillery against a known position that is 100 meters west of that enemy position, and that enemy watches a fucking building explode. And they're like, oh shit. And it's like, yeah, this is happening. All right, so come 100 meters, right? Come one right and fire another one.
So what is the main artillery piece that the Marine Corps uses now?
I think it's a 777 Howitzer.
Is it still the Like what was it? Like it's a 155, isn't it? Like the
Yeah.
M198 or something like that, or is that older?
I'm not sure. It's still, I mean, like, you know, I wasn't an artilleryman by any means. It's just the battery that I was working with. There were 777 howitzers that you could, you know, hook on the back of a 7-ton and drag down the road.
Right.
Kind of a thing. But they all had guidance computers and stuff like that. So, or not guidance.
I have a friend. He's a family friend who was in. He was in third Mardiv in Vietnam, and he was an artilleryman. And he used to tell me stories about when they would take these hills, right? Basically, they would like chop the top off the hill in Vietnam, and then they would emplace 105 millimeter howitzers on top in the fire support bases.
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah,
just crazy as fuck.
And so that's one of the missions, not one of the missions of artillery, but that's one of the missions that you can use artillery for, is to clear landing zones, to clear fire base positions. Well, because for two reasons. One is it clears all the vegetation. Two is it makes it clears all of the vegetation, and it clears all of the would-be ordnance if they put landmines or any IEDs or anything like that, booby traps, what have you. But then also it creates fighting positions. I mean, you can fight out of a crater. All you need now is a parapet and a grenade sump. Hey, you know, like, so craters on the hillside, you can actually turn into small, you know, patrol bases and long-range reconnaissance bases and stuff like that, too. Because that's the other thing, too. Is like, oh, man, you would fire artillery at these fuckers who are in caves and shit, and you're just thinking to yourself, dude, if I am in that mountain right now, I am shitting my pants. There's no amount of prayer that I could possibly do, you know, and we're not getting them. You know, we're rattling the cage, don't get me wrong, but they're like, oh yeah, you know, they come back out of the caves and still want to fight. And it's like, oh great, now what do we need? We need a goddamn bunker buster? Or like, we would use artillery pieces on tree lines. That shit doesn't work. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, there's no other way to put it. We would use, we would call for air to burn up tree lines, and we had to deal with so many IEDs in this one tree line. We'll just call it tree line black. And we nailed the shit out of it with everything. We call for air. We put artillery on it. We put 81s on it. We put Wooly P on it. We tried burning that fucker down with Mo gas, with JP8. We went out there on foot and tried burning it down. We tried literally everything, and I'm pretty sure that goddamn tree line still exists. Like, because it's a ditch that's all grown in with all of these other different plants and everything else that's in there. And I was shocked at how much of an effect artillery has on men and man-made items, and how little effect it really has on like tree lines, hillsides. Well, some, like I said, Afghan compounds are just thick as shit because all they do is make mud. Have you ever seen how they do this? Do you know what I'm talking about? The mud bag?
Yeah. Yep.
You could do it with a sea bag. I've seen guys do it. But it's like they literally just fill a giant ass bag full of mud, and then they just pour walls. They slowly step down, you know, and the wall winds up being like 20 inches thick all the way down. And when that shit hardens, and they mix it with mud and hair from animals, their own hair, all sorts of different stuff gets mixed into this compound, and it's just hard as shit to knock in even with an artillery piece. I tell you what, I'll put the video. I like a jackass. It's got me saying something about like, this is the best May 24th I ever had, because I was like, how do I say the date? You know, May 24th, 2011. We're blowing the shit out of the enemy, which we were blowing the shit out of the enemy. It was awesome. We had 81s and Artie and
Well, and we can't, as Marines, we can't go on without talking about naval guns, which are just a different form of artillery.
See, I've never called for naval guns.
We got to do it in training, just in training though. Never got to call it like in open combat or anything, but I know that they have. I mean, dude, like go back to World War II, and they would do the naval bombardments of those fucking islands. Dude, I remember reading about a story of from a guy. He was a gunner on the USS Idaho that just shelled the shit out of Oki. You know, Okinawa, and just freaking man. I mean, and the Idaho was a pretty big boat. I mean, it was a battleship, obviously. It's not one of the Iowa classes, but you know, shit. Yeah. Fucking serious freaking 32,000, you know, ton displacement or some shit like that. Just fucking massive, and had 12, I think there were 14-inch guns on that boat. You know, dude, I can only imagine 14-inch fucking shell.
That's like
just fucking retarded.
You know,
it's like a 1,500-pound shell, and they're rocking them out at, you know, however many a minute, just boom, 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 and that doesn't even count now. They've probably got like 5-inch guns on that boat as well, or 8-inch guns, you know, and they're just fucking lobbing rounds on this fucking beach. Just insanity, dude.
That's just hate and discontent.
Oh, and I know that they're not the only boat. You know, I don't know which other boats were there in Oki, but I have read that story about that boat, about a gunman on that, and they were just like running shifts. So you know, it's just crazy.
It's fantastic. See, I tell you what. Well, Tim needs to get on here and tell his story, because he called for naval guns in the first Gulf War.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro.
Which, yeah, that's epic. And I'm pretty sure, I don't like telling somebody else's sea stories. I'm pretty sure he got some pink mist on a bolt gun. If memory serves me correct. But he's got some cool sea stories also of, you know, doing some Anglico shit. That's a whole nother unit. We need to get Anglico Marines on here.
Well, I've got a guy that I know. I've got two or three. Yeah, Anglico is one of those uncelebrated MOSs in the fucking Corps, bro.
And yet one of the best kept secrets, because those motherfuckers.
Yes.
Phew, I've heard some stories. You're just like, yeah, dude.
No shit.
It's a badass
like,
unit.
Well, people are like, Anglico, what the fuck is that?
Right.
You know how many Marines have no idea what the fuck Anglico is? It's not even Marines. It's just people, especially outside the Marine Corps.
I looked into it.
Yeah. I
was like, dude, that's some shit. Well, because I was never JTAC qualified, right? But when we were corporals, we went to the NWJTC building and learned close air support, better call for fire type stuff. Had JTACs in there. FACs were teaching the class as part of their FAC course, which is pretty cool. And Anglico guys were there in order to get JTAC certified, and this was a segment in it. So we were just kind of all together. When you're a corporal who has only been exposed to the fleet, this is a really cool time. You know, this is like, I don't have to PT all the time.
So what does Anglico mean? Go.
What does the acronym mean?
Yeah, what's the acronym?
Come on. I have no idea off the top of my head.
Air Naval Gunfire Liaison Company.
Nice.
Anglico.
Nice.
Oh yeah, are the fire support and liaison units for the fucking MAGTF bitches.
Yeah. Yeah, like I know what they do. You know.
And the thing is, that's the other thing. Not very big.
No.
Not very many of them.
They're another one of those spatial communities.
Yeah, they are. They really are.
Long hair, don't care, rocking chonies.
Kinda.
They're in all black, rolling around Kuwait. What are those guys doing? What are you doing? You look like you're in the fucking Air Force. What are you doing?
Right. What the fuck's going on with you? What are you, some kind of TACP or something? What the fuck's going on? You know?
They're like, and they're like, where are they? What?
Well, so
what
I had a buddy. I have another buddy. Well, we had Mike Kim. He was Anglico.
Mike Kim.
Remember Mike Kim?
The warrior monk.
The warrior monk. He was Anglico. But then I have another buddy who will go unnamed, but I'll see if I can get him on the show. And that guy went to, fuck. Once he made, I think he got out as like an E6 or a gunny, but he got, he went to like every fucking badass.
Yeah.
One of those schools. Like he went to the because once he became a team chief of a fire control team.
Yeah.
They sent him to TACP school.
Fuck.
And then as like the joint terminal attack controller school, like the JTAC school and that type of stuff. Yeah, man, fucking badass shit.
And it's like what we're talking about here is that you need to understand the knowledge so that you understand your capabilities. All of these schools are empowerment applications. Like that's something else. Now, like,
but that's one of the reasons the Marine Corps has these things, though, is people forget. So this is why, like, TACPs and battle controllers get attached to Army units, right? But the thing is the Marine Corps has their own guys, and that's what Anglico is, because we have our own air assets. So, a lot of people forget that shit. Just saying.
Right.
That's one of the biggest reasons that we have Anglico.
Right.
So.
Well, and it again, going back, what I'm trying to say here is that when you learn something, this is what I didn't understand when I first started going into schools in the military. Each school that you go to in the military is, and I'll say the fucking cheesy line, it's a tool in your toolbox, right? It is another implementation item that you can use during a given situation. Okay, this is not core curriculum where you need to memorize this shit in order to pass, and then you're going to matriculate on to the next grade and blah blah blah. We're talking about like you're going to all of these high-speed, low-drag schools so that you can learn how to wield death, kind of a deal. Like TACP school, jump school, all of these things. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to kick you out the back of a fucking moving aircraft, and then you're going to land on the ground in advance of everybody and call for a gun that is out in the fucking ocean to soften up this target. But we need, like, you there, eyes on, with a radio. So you got to learn how to do all this shit. Cool? And,
Cool.
like, what? Don't threaten me with a good time. That's, were you kidding me? You know what I'm saying? And of course, there's a physical fitness level and other different, elements and tests to go through. But basically, you're going to learn how to talk on a radio. You're going to learn how to go and do all of these things so that, we can basically empower you with the ability to go and call for fire, which means that a 155 round is going to blow apart that fucking shack out in the middle of the desert or some shit. It's right. It's crazy how much training and manpower and all of these other different things go into the element of, like, let's aim this giant cannon and see if we can blow something up a really long ways away.
Yeah, buddy.
It's still is that, That's cool. That's
kind of is.
Kind of badass. My pants just got a little bit tight. In 9 lines or less, I can blow your ass up. I mean, pretty much anywhere.
I mean, Anglico almost died.
Oh, yeah. They almost went away.
Because I want to say it was like 98 or 99. I want to say they decommissioned like or like deactivated all active duty Anglico units in the Marine Corps. I think they still had third and fourth Anglico company, but first and second for sure. I know that for sure were deactivated.
Mm-hmm.
And they had their responsibilities transferred to like liaison unit elements and stuff. But they kept the reserve units, which is kind of crazy, but but then shit kicked off and all of a sudden, wait, we're at war. Maybe we should activate Anglico again.
We started some shit.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that we could get these ships into the Yeah, there we go. Okay. We're going to need a unit in order to do that. Who do we got? Marines? Okay, fuck it. Who costs less? We could have Navy SEALs to whoa.
Wait,
whoa.
What?
Whoa. What about recon? No, they're part of.
Yeah,
they have a black checkbook too, Bob. We gotta
do that, but they kind of work. But,
right? Like Anglico. Man. Yeah, all right.
Anglico, bring them on. Which I know Anglico. I know those guys were attached to the 18th Airborne Corps for the invasion of Grenada. Nice. They were one of the Marine Corps units that was involved, along with Clint Eastwood and his guys.
Gunny Highway.
I
just love how everybody wheels around and pops to attention when they see that itty bitty little ribbon. Heartbreak Ridge.
Unbelievable.
What are you going to do now?
They fucked up that movie so bad.
Dude.
Anyway, it's an embarrassment. I don't even want to talk about it. And then I know some Anglico, like this buddy of mine I know that he went to Helmand and was blowing shit up over there in like 08, 09, something like that.
Nice.
So, yeah, man.
Dude, okay. One of the coolest things, if we're going to talk about Call for Air, Call for Fire, and we haven't really talked about Call for Air, that's probably a whole nother topic unto itself.
Yeah, it kind of is, but I can tell you, I got to call in Cass with it. Oh, dude, now this dates me. Not that we don't know that I'm fucking old as fuck anyway. That I got to call Cass, this is just some training, but it was still badass. Calling Cass with the fucking A6, bro.
Nice.
Yeah, and when those things come flying over your ass, low and hot, they're loud as fuck. They're so fucking loud. Yeah, and then they fuck shit up. I swear, dude, that's such a badass fucking plane. It was back then.
See, this is all right. So there's two different capabilities that we had. One is we had counter battery against enemy combatants, but also we had the ability to use air as assets to like target known positions. We just called it Sparkle. Maybe you've heard me talk about Sparkle.
Does that include unicorn farts? We're powered by unicorn farts.
They fart in rainbows. They fart in rainbows.
And sparkle.
And sparkle.
Anyway, that's pretty awesome, Sparkle.
Please don't make fun of my brony lifestyle. Thank you. No, so we would have air as asset, and with MVGs we could see Sparkle. I'll put it to you that way. So it's a jet basically saying like, there's some shit, or I think that might be some shit. And also what we could do is lays from our position, they would confirm with Sparkle, and then they could then, so let's say, for instance, you're on a rooftop, you see shitheads, or what you think are shitheads that are doing some shady shit. And there's like 3 technicals near what would be a vignette, a small village, right?
Right.
And, or excuse me, a vignette, a hamlet. A vignette is a small written thing. Anyway, so
I was about to say,
I've been writing a lot. So a hamlet. So it'd be like, 3 or 4 huts, and then there'd be like 4 or 5 pickup trucks on the edge of town. You lays that target,
Do you know that fucking New York still has hamlets? But anyway, keep going. Sorry. Yeah. Keep going.
They do weird shit up there.
They really do.
People are weird. So, so you lays it. They're flying overhead, and they go, "Yeah, we confirm where you're lasing." And then they sparkle over there, and are they shitheads?
Shit,
yes, they are.
Shit doesn't even sound right.
And
sparkles.
Right. So basically, these shitheads are out, smoking and joking with their white pickups and dishkas that are bolted or welded into the bed of these fucking things. And we're like, hey, we see these guys, and IR lays them. And they're like, okay, we see where IR lazy, and we'll zoom in with our badass camera. And then they're like, you mean these guys? Yeah. And so now these guys are just sparkling in the middle of the night with IR beams, and they can't see that shit. It's not like they're seeing little red dots all over them. They're just sparkling. You can see them literally on the net. You go like, I confirm your sparkle. Okay, like this is SOP.
It's horrible, dude.
But anyway, the point being is that they have the ability as a third party, essentially, to go, yeah, I confirm that those are shitheads, but I can't blow them up with the ordnance that I've got on my aircraft at this time. And when that happens, you're all but guaranteed to get the artillery. So if your troops in contact and a specialty unit, you're probably going to get artillery. So if you're recon who does like break, and then relays the troops in contact and then calls for fire, you're all but guaranteed that you're going to get artillery. If you're in an OP and you're not in contact and you request artillery and it's quiet right in the middle of the night, somebody on the gun line's thinking about it. They're like, do we really need to use artillery for this? Could snipers in support? And then that's when you call for the sparkle. So you kind of give them too much intel. You're like, look, man, we have a shitload of shitheads, and the officer out there flying an airplane right now says that there's a shitload of shitheads. So we should probably blow all those guys up.
Give us some motherfucking sparkle, bitches.
Exactly. Sparkle them one more time, sir, and we're going to fuck these assholes up.
Oh, my God, that's funny.
So, dude, it would be like...
Did you guys ever get to use or witness Spectre?
Oh, yeah, Spectre gunship?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that shit'll haunt you.
That fucking thing.
I'm telling you right now.
They're fucking hardcore, bro.
You don't see it. You can hear it.
You can hear that bitch, and then all of a sudden you hear or you just hear like that fucking airborne howitzer, bro. Oh my God. King. Like, holy fuck.
Have you ever seen them mutually support each other? Because that's a whole nother game.
No.
Well,
wow.
You got to remember that they're up there circling, and they can't circle.
Right.
So you have prop wash that's coming off of these things. Plus, you also had the ballistic coefficient that's happening here, right? So there's a whole lot of math, and they've got to be at 2 different altitudes, and they're honed in on 2 different sides, essentially getting 2 different pictures. Oh yeah, I've seen like you can hear them just up there in the middle of the night, which is very calming and warm when they're on your side. And then
yeah, exactly.
And then it's like and just shit blows up, and you're like, what? It's a whole lot of power. It's a floating artillery piece. I mean, it's hard to wrap your brain around it, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I know. Fucking crazy as shit, bro.
I have heard stories where guys look with their NVGs and supposedly see muzzle flash coming out of, like a Spectre or whatever. Spooky or whatever.
Whatever the fuck you want to call those things.
But I've never... It always is like shit blew up, and I'm like, what the what the fuck was that? Like, what blew up? You know, all of the things, like, was that the enemy? Was that, yeah. Same thing with counter battery. Have you ever almost been blown up by your own artillery? Because that's almost happened to me twice.
Oh, no.
Yeah, one time we were in the northeastern side of Ramadi. We're out there, we're in the northeastern edge of the AO, and there is fields that are out there, and then you have the river that goes across, and fields on the other side, and Jersey barriers that are haphazard, and a couple of different things that were basically like, you know, just shit that people dragged out into the road in order to basically create a maze that went around Ramadi. And we were out there doing God knows what. I think that we were reacting to something on the other side of the hospital. But us and Vic 4 were poked out on the edge on the other side of this field. And then Vic 2 and 3 were right up next to the neighborhood so they could tuck into the neighborhood. But then we started seeing artillery impact, like, and they're coming towards us. What the shit is going on? Well, it turned out that south of our position and just inside of, I think it was Route Apple or whatever it is that's right there, just inside of the neighborhood, they had received a mortar. It was a guy on a rooftop that was like, they saw that we were around. And so they just started lobbing mortars at our friendly positions, saying, fuck it, you know, counter battery's not going to shoot at Americans. Well, they didn't know that we were there. So they started shooting at us. And we were like, oh, shit. And so we had to, you know, I mean, it's one thing, you know, you're out there and artillery's firing and everything else. But now you're in a Humvee and you've got everybody plus your ordnance plus it's a clusterfuck. And so we all just basically hauled ass back into the village. Or back into Ramadi and started going down, and we split sections, so all of the trucks were on different roads, which was kind of a unique thing. I think that was the only time where all of the vehicles were entirely separated, where it was like we were just scrambling through the streets. But it was cool, though, and super sexy for anybody who has ever been in a MAP platoon or a CAT platoon. We all somehow... We're like, where are you? We're over here, we're over here, we're over here. And we're relaying back and forth in between our PR and our green gear and our black gear and blah, blah, blah. And we're communicating. Gunners can hear and vehicle commanders can't because they're in the trucks. And, you know, we're relaying in between one another. And boop, we all pop out on a racetrack, fall right in line. 1, 2, 3, 4, high backs in there where it's supposed to be. And continue on with the patrol.
So speaking of the Spectre, which they've, technically, I guess they've retired them, and they're coming out with the AC 130 Ghost Rider, which is just got a little bit of different package on it, including a 30 millimeter Bushmaster 2.
Hell yeah!
Right, and they can drop GB 39s, so little bombs, and then some other kind of Viper strike, you know, anti-tank weapon.
Jesus,
this is fucking crazy. And they're talking about also expanding, so they'll have wing-mounted laser guided Hellfires fired off of it. I mean, like, seriously. What the
fucking
fuck,
Air Force? God damn.
Yeah, those fucking guys. I swear, man. The shit that they come up with, because one of the things that I've seen, I don't know how we're getting. I'm not going to talk about it because we're off. We're talking about artillery.
Dude.
So it made sense to talk about the Spectre because that's airborne artillery.
Well, and the Air Force is like, oh, yeah, I like what you guys did there, dragging them around by trucks.
Yeah, great. Exactly, right?
All right, guys, we're going to bolt this to the inside of a fucking plane. What'd you say?
And we're just going to fly around and shoot shit.
Right.
You know?
Do you think that you can bank left for long enough for me to shoot this artillery piece out of the back of your airplane? Like, what did you just say? You know, like, who was sitting around one day like, all right, hold on, time out. The Marines have got this tiny little artillery piece. I'm pretty sure that we could put it on a fucking airplane. Now, hear me out on this one, because I've been hitting the pipe pretty hard. We could also put a Mark 19 or some other 40 millimeter grenade launcher and maybe a 50 cal or quad. Yeah, I don't know, but just let's load it up with as many projectiles as possible and start raining hate and discontent down on foreign nations. You know, I mean, fuck it. Yeah. Why not? Dude, can you imagine? I don't know if you could honestly do it, but like, could you imagine when they put an artillery piece coming out the bottom of a fucking Osprey or something? I mean, that's a game changer.
Oh yeah.
Like,
turn that bitch into a...
Could you, sir, can you hover that motherfucker like 300 feet off the deck and just like how?
I know one of the things, fucking air. All right, so we'll go into it just a little bit with fucking Air Force. So they've got their B-1s, right? You know, the B-1 bombers, which is like ridiculous airplane, supersonic fucking thing, carries like 75,000 pound payload, right? So now one of the things, because it can keep up with things like the F-22 and the F-35 and, you know, any kind of, you know, supersonic jet, right? Yeah. F-15s and whatnot. Well, so what they're talking about doing, I don't know if they've actually done it, but the concept is out there to turn a B-1 into what's called a missile truck.
A missile truck.
Basically. So what they do is that they put all these external hard points on and just load it up with like AMRAAMs and different air-to-air missiles. Okay. And what they do is that they link all the targeting software and whatnot together with a flight of like an F-35, because the F-35 and the F-22, because of their stealth capabilities, they have a limited payload, right? But so they put them up and they send them up with these orbiting missile trucks. So what happens is that they target enemy bogeys, but if they run out of ammo, then what happens is that it comes off the rails on this B-1.
Oh, that's gnarly.
So it could come out of just fucking nowhere, literally.
I thought you were going to say that they were doing some sort of crazy ass Top Gun maneuver.
No,
and they were going to get re-outfitted.
No.
Well, I was inverted. We did a belly to belly in-flight ordnance exchange.
Not just
we don't. The space shuttle landing on the back of this thing.
We don't just in air refuel. We also put fucking weapons.
Ordnance, right? But you just bring it right in there.
It's like a fucking.
We do ordnance, and then also we pass up Capri Sun to the cockpit.
Capri Sun is fucking nutter butters.
So they get nutter.
Yes,
they're up there.
We like to eat those. We're flying.
Did you see that last one? Yeah, that Russian bastard. Yeah. Get us going there, Jim. It's like a pit stop mid-flight.
Hit me drop my nutter butter.
Dude, these guys are eating peyote buttons, coming up with the latest and greatest. Are we going to pay for this one?
Yeah, that shit's crazy, right? Missile trucks.
Jesus.
They've also talked about doing them with like 777s.
Oh, my God.
Oh, shit. But anyway.
That's so cool, though, because they're going to be zinging around. I'm picturing like these little like fighters buzzing around, and they're like bing, 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 bing. You know, and it's like, yes, comrade, they waved off, you know, and just out of nowhere there's a fucking missile that came from out of the atmosphere. Like, what the hell was that? What the hell was that?
Like, you should, if anyone wants to see our destructive capability, just go on, you know, the F-15 is like the baddest boy on the planet. Like, it's a badass fucking airplane. There's not a whole lot of other countries that can even stand up their best airplane to even stand up against the F-15, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they put, just type it into Google and put F-15 versus F-22. And they put 5 F-15s up against one F-22. And like the F-15 pilot's like, yeah, we didn't even see him. He shot them all down. We didn't even see him. It's just a ridiculously like not even fair.
Right.
And I was when I worked for the Air Force. I was on Tyndall Air Force Base, which is where one of the F-22 squadrons is at. That son of a bitch is a bad bitch. It's just a bad bitch. It doesn't have all the capabilities of like an F-15, of course, but when it comes to air, I ain't fucking with that thing, man.
Ugh.
Can't even see it. It's got the radar signature of like a fucking goose.
A seagull.
You know what I mean? So, anyway.
Yeah.
It's just a little fucking stupid. It's not even right. So.
Whatever, man. I'm calling for that dude. He's on my team. Mm-hmm.
Fuck yeah. Talking about fucking missile truck. Dude, it's like guys just sit around and think this shit up,
Right, exactly. Well, and
one of the most... How can we repurpose this aircraft?
Well, okay, so kind of...
Instead we want to get rid of the A-10. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, those things are fun as hell, man. I mean, that's an airframe built around a goddamn gun. That's a great idea.
And a DP fucking depleted uranium bathtub that the fucking right. Pilot sits in.
Well, one of the more humbling experiences in talking to fellow Marines, but they happen to be on the aviation side, was I got back to the fleet after my time in Quantico and was an advisor, and then one of the lieutenants, who was actually one of our shooters, I don't know if he was one of my, whatever. He remembered me from Quantico. He had been through flight school at this point and was now flying Hueys. So this was, 3 years since I saw him as a TBS Marine. Sounds about right as far as the math concerned. But he was new to the fleet, flying the new Huey. And the new, if you recall, on the older Hueys, you couldn't run up to the nose. You'd be chopped in half. You had to come up on either side. And supposedly with the new Hueys, they've eliminated that. The other thing is, he was talking about SOP is, they have rocket pods, but on one side, they'll put a Vulcan, and on the other side, depending on how they're flying, it'll be a Ma Deuce or a Mark 19. And he was talking about if you have artillery that's firing, what we typically will do is ask you, your direction of fire, and they will fly perpendicular essentially to the direction of fire. And he's like, because what I'll do is I'll just sit there and hover, and I'll watch artillery just, fuck them up. And then when they think that they're all good, I'll hit them with rockets and guns. And I'm like, that is some evil, sadistic ass shit. Like, yeah, we'll just sit there behind a hill, and then they'll blow all of them up. And then they come out kind of after the firefight, or whatever, and then we come through, blow everybody up. And I'm just like, wow, that's fantastic. But the humbling, cool experience was having the aviators that were there, and he was the younger guy, so he was teaching the class, right, so that he could learn more. And then he had a couple of captains that were there and stuff like that. But they made it a point that they could not work unless we got these baseline elements. They couldn't do anything unless I don't want to say unless we told them to do it. That's not right. It's not like the guys on the ground have the authority. But they can't do anything unless you hit those elements within a 9 line in order to get them into work. And then same thing with artillery, same thing with 81, same thing with anybody. You've got to get the certain elements of the 9 line that matter priority-wise in order to get, the ordnance that you're looking for. But they're like, if you can just get us there and then start talking to us like we're on a phone, then we can coordinate all of these other different pieces. Fixed-wing aircraft, you're not necessarily going to be able to do that. So I thought that it was cool because I thought that it was cool also because you can shoot rotary wing out of the fucking sky with low angle or high angle indirect fire. Whereas you don't really have that problem, with fixed wing. However, you can't call for high Mars and you can't put up the goalpost or anything with fixed wing on. Whereas you can with rotary wing. Plus, when you call for rotary, like rotary wing will fly in the middle of a firefight. And so long as artillery's over here and they're offset by like 100 meters, they'll still land. And that's some of the other elements that are out existing in the battlefield. And really, if you just understand some 9-lines, I mean, you feel pretty empowered for the average dude who's just like out there like, damn, I'm 21 years old and I can call for pretty much anything. You know, you got to justify it. Don't get me wrong. You can't just call willy-nilly for whatever the fuck you want. But I mean, you're in the middle of a firefight and you know what you're doing. Like you can fuck some shit up, you know, and then get battle damage assessments. Like, you know, like my favorite battle damage assessment was when we called for air. We were calling for artillery and they said that they couldn't get them in that position. And we had air on deck. And so we called in a 9-line while we were looking at them with Vector. And they did rockets and guns on these guys and blew them all to shit. They were shooting 81s. They were shooting mortars at us. And so they were like, stand by for BDA. Tube, parts of bodies. I'm like, what? That's awesome. Buddy. Yes. Mission accomplished.
Yeah, isn't it crazy that the Marine Corps actually still uses Hueys? I mean, they're highly.
Oh, they're so badass though.
The ones that they turned into like an attack role as well as the Yankee, the UH-1 Yankee. Yeah. So they put on Hydra rockets, all kinds of different shit. They can put up, a couple of 240 machine guns. Or 50 cal, or the like a GAU-17 Gatling gun. So which is 7.62 fucking Gatling gun. But I think the 16 is actually a 50, if I'm not mistaken. A 50 on rotary, just fucking shit up.
Oh, dude,
on the side of a fucking Huey.
Well,
I mean, now when I was in, we got to call in support from Cobras, of course, which the Marine Corps still has, and that's a fucking bad piece of machinery. The Super Cobra, fuck you.
Well, when a Cobra comes in, it can bank and maneuver and fire at the same time, and when a Huey comes in, what they're doing is they take the airframe and basically turn it to its side, and one gun goes until it's like hot. And then they roll the bird over to the other side, and then the other gun goes. And then they point the nose, and then the rockets go. So they have to angle, basically 3 different ways in order to make the ordnance that's on the bird effective in flight, which is what I think is cool. It's like it's like a flying patrol base, essentially. Plus,
and you've got so many different weapons that it carries. I mean, it can roll with the gun. It can roll in with rockets. It can roll in with fucking they used to carry tows on them, and I don't really know if they still do, but I know they carry Hellfires as well, which is just sick. And dude, the fucking things even have anti-aircraft missiles. They carry AIM-9 sidewinders on them.
Yeah.
So they can defend themselves against,
Well, my buddy tells this story better than I do, because we were doing helo ops one day, and again, we were working with artillery where, we would basically fist team and everybody else was coordinating fires. And then we had crunchies that were running up in advance, calling for fire. What we would do is
crunchies,
and then they'd hit it. We would assault through, and basically an air assault element would deploy off. So you would have a crunchy element that was coming from one side, already had softened it up from another. Air element would come in, we would deploy off of the skids, and then they would do gun runs back and forth. The air element, basically like they're taking out the northern side, the crunchies were taking out the western and the south, and some of the southern side. Artillery was taking out the southern and the eastern side, and then we were supposed to land in and fuck everything up. It was awesome. And so we were doing, the ships were doing gun runs in between, so they were hitting Ivan targets and stationary targets. And a guy did a barrel change in mid-flight, so we had banked over to the other side, and now, we're looking basically at the sky, and this guy takes the barrel off of his 240, and he sets it down in the middle of the Huey and goes back for his other barrel. So now you have just a loose barrel, no dumbing cord, no nothing, laying on the belly of a Humvee while you're doing a 45-degree bank. And my buddy went reaching for it, and the gunner just starts laughing at him because centrifugal force is holding that barrel against the inside of the bird while they're doing the bank. And they have to do that because, I mean, otherwise you have to work against lift inside of that airframe. And so everybody was stuck even more so than what gravity would allow. I mean, it was 2 Gs, 3 Gs, basically what we were pulling at that time. So he's doing a barrel change, has to do it lickety split, laughing at my buddy, changes the barrel, slides the other one in the sheath, makes condition 1, so bolt to the rear, on his 240, and then goes back into it. As the ship, the UH kind of banks back over to the other side, he starts getting some. And it's just like, whoa, dude, these guys are fucking awesome at their job. It was like the other part of the Marine Corps that you don't get to see all the time. And these dudes were having fun as shit. It was just live fire all day. Yeah. But that's the thing also that 29 Palms allows. Because you can do, I mean, that's part of Finex. That's shit that you have to do. Not that you get to do. Like, that's part of the exercise. Oh, and then some, And then when you start kicking in doors in some of these 360-degree live fire meltdowns, you're like, oh, shit, kind of dig my job,
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Good times. So artillery, though, huh? That's cool.
Yeah, artillery. I guess we went straight to the air, too. Fuck it.
Well, I mean, because you can put artillery in airframes. Plus, artillery is... I mean,
rockets in essence are artillery as well. So, just saying.
And that's a whole nother... nother episode. Blowing apart somebody's domicile with a rocket. I mean, that's a whole nother type of fun.
Yeah, buddy.
See, that's why you subscribe, folks, because there will be more episodes. Give us your comments, share your thoughts, share your artillery pictures. You'll see ours. You've already seen a couple of them. Yeah. I got to post that video on there. Share your video, share your artillery videos. This is it. It's a podcast for everybody. That's the whole thing. We're looking to have, frankly, pretty much anybody who is a member of the Fleet Marine Force in any capacity. We welcome you on the podcast. We want to share sea stories with you. Probably chewed some of the same dirt. We offer it up as a platform for y'all to speak your mind in any way, shape, or form. Just hang out, We are a cigar lounge of sorts, so of course we dabble in the business talk from time to time. We typically, we don't really talk about anything aside from killing and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Some funny stuff occasionally happens along the way, but it's fun. Be part of the conversation by all means. We would love to have you on. So
yeah, buddy.
Hell yeah. Subscribe, rate, review the podcast. You can find us on iTunes and pretty much anywhere across the Google Play Store that you could think of listening to podcasts. Thank you to Heroes Media Group. You guys freaking rock. If you have not already checked out Heroes Media Group, do it right now. It's other veteran podcasts, and they're awesome. There's a smattering of podcasts. Life Lit Media, thank you guys. They do a lot of tactical PR, social media work, fellow veteran-led business. Pretty much anybody that we're partnering with. No, everybody that we're partnering with is all veteran-led businesses. And
yeah, for sure.
And folks like that. It's our community and who we're hanging out with. So, yeah, man. Yeah, thanks so much for listening to another episode of Cigars and Sea Stories. You got anything? Anything for these folks? Maybe a war cry?
Hellfire and Brimstone.
Maybe Brimstone. That was the unit we were with. You guys are badass. Shout out to Brimstone. You guys are fucking awesome. You're not just string pullers and swab suckers, which is a thing, by the way. Look it up.
Swab chucker.
But they... those guys did some grunt shit. They did serious leg infantry, patrolling, gunning down the enemy face-to-face shit. And all too often our arty guys are overlooked. They are thrown to the wolves in a lot of different ways. So keep on rocking. Rah. Semper Fidelis, always. And on that note, we cue the music.